Okay, welcome, Dr. Meenal, to the Biohacker Babes podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh,
In
thank you for having me.
yes, lovely to have you. And we are talking about eyes today, which this is a personal interest of mine because Renee and I feel like have had really excellent vision our entire lives, but mine seemingly like dropped off of a cliff a few years ago, or specifically a year and a half ago, shortly after my 40th birthday. I was like, what a birthday gift to myself.
Mine too, don't worry.
Yeah. And I have been spending more and more time on my computer, like post pandemic. I was pretty much 100% on my computer for work. So I'm just so curious with eye and vision health because not a lot of people are talking about this in the biohacking space. So really excited to get your wisdom today. But I'm curious how much of declining eye health is due to more and more time on technology, or is it more environmental, hormonal, just normal aging, which I don't like that latter part, but just curious about the biggest contributors at this point.
Oh my gosh, all of those, but I'm going to classify them as environmental, which includes all of them. So, spending a lot of time on your digital devices, not getting enough outdoor time, and not socializing enough. So, I think all those environmental factors definitely contribute to more digital eye strain, muscle tiredness that leads to us developing a prescription much earlier. And what you alluded to, Lauren, was presbyopia, which happens after we're 40. We start needing the reading glasses. And when I started practicing 18 years ago, it would be like, I would always do this thing in my head where it was like, okay, you're 46, 47. Okay, the latest person I've had is 48. And now it's like the earliest. I'm looking at who has it the earliest. And now we're seeing it as early as 34, 35. And we definitely saw that shift, or I want to say we focused on that shift much more post COVID, because during COVID, people were working from their home on their, near devices, and kids were in school. Everybody got it much earlier. So it's a problem. And I think a lot of it is environmental.
Mm. Yeah, the
Oh,
technology thing is so interesting. And I'm so grateful that when we grew up in the 90s, the only thing we heard was don't sit too close to the TV. But, we didn't have iPads and iPhones and things like right in front of our faces. And I'm actually watching this documentary on Netflix right now. It's kind of a terrible story about like cyberbullying. But these high schoolers are saying how they are on their phones 13, on average, 13 hours a day, which is, I mean, I average like 6, which I still think is too much. But
Yeah.
what do you think about like kids and teenagers? Is there a difference with like them being exposed at a younger age? Are we going to see even younger eye problems?
Yeah. So right now, what we're seeing, so excess screen time, so more near work, whether it's a screen, whether it's reading a lot, even it's the muscles focusing up close, actually leads to early onset of myopia, which is nearsightedness, needing glasses for distance in children. So we are seeing a lot more people who we didn't expect genetically or didn't fit that prototype getting nearsighted. And the projected stat, which we are on track to achieve, which is scary, is by the year 2050, 50% of the world will be nearsighted. I think we're at 40 now. So, I mean, we're on track to achieve that. And over the last couple of years, there are kids that are getting into glasses that I would have never expected. Young kids like 5 years that are -6, and both parents are like, we're immigrants. We never had glasses. We didn't do all this, and I'm like, well, how much time is your child on an iPad? And they're like, oh, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day. And I'm like, that's not what's recommended for your child's age. So a
Yeah.
lot of it is contributing to nearsightedness. We are seeing children into glasses much sooner. I worry about, really, as they're getting older, are we going to see these kids being nearsighted as well as being early presbyopic, which is the 40 plus issue combined, where they're into bifocals, one for distance, one for near. It's going to be crazy.
Wow.
oh, okay. So
Okay.
my journey hasn't been that bad, but
No, we just missed that.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
We're
I'll take
good.
it.
Okay.
We're good.
So if technology is one of the biggest environmental causes, can you break down like what exactly is happening? Like in the biohacking space, people talk a lot about blue light, but I assume with computers, it's not just blue light or artificial light, but perhaps maybe text being smaller than our eyes should be perceiving, or what else is going on with like looking at a device like this? I'm on my computer right now.
Yeah, so it's the distance. So it's actually the distance that matters. So it doesn't have to be a device. That's a separate thing that we can get into, which is blue light. But if we're talking specifically prescription and weakening eyesight, we're talking about the distance that we're looking at things. So exactly what Renee was saying about, when we were younger, our parents said sit farther away from the TV. They were right. We don't want to admit that, but they were right. So the closer you are to something, whether it's reading a book or you're on your iPad or a bigger screen, if it's arm's length distance, you know that it's causing muscle strain or digital or just eye strain in general. And most of these devices or books are at arm's length distance. So, if you were a bookworm when you were a child, you're probably getting nearsightedness. But the issue is before we would just have those people who studied a lot or, were bookworms. But now we're getting, well, the rest of the people are also on devices that may not have been bookworms. So we're getting like double the amount of people who are developing nearsightedness. So when your muscles are focused up close for so long, the light that you're looking at or whatever you're looking at up close ends up focusing behind the retina. And so the eyeball is signaled in order to see, we have to grow longer to focus on that spot. So the eyeball keeps trying to stretch in order to meet that focal point. And that is what increases nearsightedness. So you need more of a power to focus further back. So it's counterintuitive, but the more near work you do, you develop a prescription for distance. That's prescription. And then it's kind of different. But when you develop presbyopia, which is 40 plus, that's more tired muscles. That's not really an eyeball elongation. And that's why I say they're kind of two problems. They're different from when you're a child, different when you're older, but and they have a different mechanism, but both give you kind of double whammies. To your other point, Lauren, about blue light, that's more we're looking at health and wellness and sleep cycle and all of those things. So as you must know that blue light, it has high energy. It's the lowest or shortest wavelength, but it has high energy. When it has such high energy, it tends to scatter more. So it's harder to look at scatter. It's harder for your eyes to focus scatter. So we call that digital eye strain. So it's not that it increases your prescription, but it causes more eye strain. So from an eye perspective, we prefer that people cut out the blue light so they have less scatter and less reflections and less strain if they're going to be on the computer 8 hours. And then, of course, if you're not getting enough sleep because it's disrupting your circadian rhythm, we ask you to be off your devices 1 to 2 hours before.
So what are your thoughts on just like the clear blue light blocking glasses for daytime? Do you think we should be
I love that.
using
Okay.
those?
So it depends.
Okay. Because
so it depends on
sometimes
the
I
type.
use them, but I actually notice even the clear ones, they make me a little sleepy. So like if I podcast with them, I'm like a little I'm very sensitive. Yeah.
So when you buy the ones over the counter, over the shelf, just random ones that are made, typically they don't filter enough blue light. So the percentage is very small. And the problem with those, usually if they're on the cheaper end, they tend not to have good coatings on them. So you're trying to reduce scatter, but then they don't have enough anti-reflective and all those other coatings that help reduce reflection. So you're kind of getting the opposite effect. So I don't love those over-the-counter ones. But what I tell my patients is if you are wearing prescription glasses, or if you want to go to your eye doctor and get a regular pair or the optical store of dummy lenses, but get them to make it properly where they ingrain the blue light filter coating on top of proper lenses that have other anti-reflective properties. So don't just get the random ones because I really do not like when people get them, for their children, just random store, we picked a pair up. It's causing more strain in general. It might be cutting some of the blue light, but it's causing more strain. And the difference in percentage, typically when you get them randomly cheaper over the counter, we hit about 10% of the blue light, depending on which brand it is. But with a real coating ingrained in your lenses, you're getting 30 to 40% filtered out.
Okay. Wow, I'm so glad you clarified that because we're always really trying to educate and empower people to not go cheap on anything really in the health space because it's not working. It's not efficient. And I've bought like very cheap,
Yeah.
even just blue light blockers, like red glasses. If I've forgotten mine, I'm like real quick on Amazon, and then I test them. I'm like, oh, it's not actually filtering the blue light.
Hmm.
So with the blue light, I'm just curious with presbyopia. I hadn't heard that term before. I just always said farsighted because most of our audience, I would say, is like 30s and 40s. So I feel like a lot of women are like, okay, how do I prevent this? Get a good blue light blocking glass, but how do we create distance if we're working on the computer all day long? What's
Yeah.
this?
I struggle with the same thing, so I shouldn't be the one to speak, but we have kind of a rule of thumb where we call it the 20-20-20 rule. I don't know if you've heard about it, but while you're working at near work, every 20 minutes for 20 seconds, look 20 feet away. So if you can break it up, so it's not about like I'm on it 8 hours, but it's about how many times have you broken that up to look far away such that you've relaxed your muscles. So even those short bursts go a long way. It's the constant focus, which most of us did when we worked, from home during COVID, of looking up close. So that rule is very important. There is an app on some, or sorry, a setting on some tablets and phones called screen distance. I'm gonna mention it. I don't use it myself, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
a setting, like if you have an iPhone, it's definitely on there. It's called screen distance. And when you turn it on, it keeps reminding you every time your screen is too close. I turned it on. It was super annoying because my
Okay.
screen was always too close. But, for children and, if they're on tablets, it's a great app to have. But generally, I'm going to say the breaks is the easiest holistic lifestyle change that you can make. And another one is outdoor time. So, outdoor time, and studies have shown 90 minutes to 2 hours of outdoor time a day. And it doesn't have to be cumulative, can be in bursts, helps to relax the eye muscles, the eyeball, regulates the eyeball length and growth, and delays the onset of prescriptions. So it's really interesting. And
Hmm.
now we're getting into an era where we're really looking at red light therapy for the body, of course, but for the eyes, which is interesting. And studies are starting to show that possible red light therapy helping to slow the progression of myopia or other prescriptions down. So I always say, we don't know so much about the eyes. People are always skeptical putting it close to the eyes and whatnot. So I always tell my patients, just get natural red light therapy, which is going out for that morning walk. 10 minutes in the morning is like putting a red light belt on your eyes, right? It's the same idea. But it's better and it's more natural.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And just in
Because
general with outdoor time, are we avoiding wearing sunglasses at that time? Or maybe that's a
Great
whole other
question.
topic, which is
Yeah,
oh,
no, great
which
question.
I'm very curious about that.
So, it's funny because I'm part of two camps. One is where I'm so happy about outdoor time, but also so against not having UV protection. So, what I tell patients is if you're outdoors going to garden for 2 hours, please wear your sunglasses. But if you're going to go out for that morning walk where it's early morning, the sun, is not strong, go without your sunglasses. Get that 10-15 minutes on your eyes. I mean, I don't want you to stare at the sun, but just on your eyes, general red light, natural sunlight. But if you're out there longer than half an hour, get your sunglasses on because UV tends to give you early cataracts. We see, damage in the retina, and that's been proven. There's no studies that really debunk that. So we know UV can accelerate eye diseases, but at the same time, we know it help, some that red light that we're getting naturally can help relax your prescription. So catch 22, but you want kind of the best of both worlds.
okay. Tricky.
I don't
Thank you
follow
for
all of
saying
those
that.
things.
The sunglass thing is such a hot topic in the biohacking space because the biohackers are like, I can't believe you even own sunglasses. You should throw them in the trash or whatever. And if I post a picture with sunglasses on, I know I'm going to get comments from the biohackers. But if I'm in Vegas, it is super sunny almost every single day. And if I'm out at a pool for 5 or 6 hours, I'm going to wear sunglasses because
Please
I want
do.
to protect my eyes. Yeah. But when I go out in the morning for, my 10-15 minutes just to wake up, I don't wear them. So I think there is a place for sunglasses, biohackers. There is a
There
place.
is. And you know what? Like, I feel like we should never be so strong on one side, right? There is
Yeah.
a reason sunglasses were invented. So let's kind of understand both sides of it. But I get that side, but not to that extreme where you're going to be out of sunglasses for 4 hours out in the sun, because so many studies have shown, and we see it, patients who come from countries closer to the equator where they have more sun exposure, countries where they come as immigrants, where they're working on farmlands, they have cataracts, glaucoma, diseases much earlier. And the majority of our
Wow.
patients that come that are immigrants that weren't really, trained to wear or taught about sunglasses, and you'll talk to them and we'll say, have you ever worn sunglasses? No, they all have cataracts in their 40s, early 50s. And it's so common. And, so on one hand, you want to regulate your eyeball length, but on one hand, you want to develop a cataract, which is going to cause a prescription anyway. So, I don't really know.
Yeah, there's a balance there.
That is tricky. Okay, so I need to find my sunglasses again. I do wear them if I'm outside for an extended period of time, but if I'm running an errand, morning walk. But you mentioned a red light panel. Of course, we are always trying to get people back to the basics, nature-free things, get outside. But if you do have a red light panel, do you have any definitive advice about eyes closed? Do you wear the little goggles that come? Is there a difference between red versus near infrared?
Yeah, so there are very early studies that have come out about it, and one or two devices have been, FDA approved for the eyes. I'm not fully sold on them yet, so I don't personally make strong recommendations about using it for your eyes, and I know a lot of eye doctors are not using it right now because we don't really know. There's been some counterintuitive studies as well about it. So I think until I'm confident about the advice and the theories around red light helping, I'm of the camp that I'm going to hold off because I know it's natural and it's great, but too much of it might cause other problems.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. I've seen people in the space. I won't mention names, but someone that's pretty well known. She was like, "Oh yeah, my eye color changed and my vision's so much better because I was staring into it." And at first I was like, "That's so cool," and I was like, "Oh God, wait, I don't know,
Yeah.
know about that."
I
Yeah,
close
and
my
it's
eyes
just
when I
really
do it.
regulating your eyeball length, which typically is more for the younger children. That's where the studies are really talking about for myopia or nearsightedness. It helps to regulate your eye growth, but I think you need a lot of it, and I don't think it happens over like a couple months. Versus, I'm a fan of red light therapy for your body. Like I've used it to decrease inflammation, and it's really helped me. But I think directly on your eyes where that light is going in, I'm not. I need to be fully aware of all risks, all benefits.
Yeah, that's fair. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of my red light panels came with the goggles and I never use the goggles, but I do close my eyes because I'm just not, yeah, same. I'm not ready to have my eyes open, especially because the distance, again, like you're talking about, being out during sunrise or sunset, that is still different than a red light panel here on your eyes.
Exactly.
So, yeah. I'm curious about, you mentioned cataracts. So, sun exposure can be a big cause, but is that also just very common as we age? Because I feel like I've heard, my friends' parents they're all getting cataract surgery now. They're in their 70s. But what is the real cause and like what is happening with cataracts?
Yeah, so cataracts is really the aging of the lens inside your eye. So you have two surfaces in your eyes that give rise to your vision. So it helps to focus the light. One is the lens inside your eye that is kind of like a camera lens, and the other one is your cornea, which is the front surface of your eye where you would have LASIK if you were having LASIK. So in order to correct your vision, you can work on that front surface of your eye, or as you get older, the lens gets dirty, which is called a cataract, or starts to age. And so we see it as yellowing, aging lenses where the proteins break down on the lens. And that needs to be removed and replaced. And that's called cataract surgery. So either of those surfaces can go wrong, and that's where we want to correct them. Typically, it happens, we start seeing early signs between 60 and 70, and then 70 and over, a lot of people are going in for cataract surgery. That is usually the age group. It's when we see it a lot earlier. And again, like in Canada, we don't see that a lot. I don't see a lot of earlier people, but the moment I see someone earlier, I'm like, okay, you moved from another country or you've not worn sunglasses your life. But UV exposure can accelerate that aging in a similar mechanism to like skin aging, how we say wear your sunscreen.
Okay. Okay. Because I really want to avoid that surgery.
Yeah, and I want
Yeah.
to I want to add that I always say if we all live long enough, we will all get cataracts and we will all get
Okay.
macular degeneration because these are
Okay.
all age-related diseases. We will all get it. Our body has to age and change. It's like saying my skin will never age. Things have to
Yeah.
break down. That's part of it. It's about how long can I, push back that process for the onset of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some like nutrition, lifestyle things that we can do to delay this aging process for the eyes or just enhance our efforts to be able to keep our vision a little healthier?
Absolutely. So carotenoids are great. They're pigments that are, found in vegetables. We get them in kale, spinach, broccoli, red peppers, like anything really heavily colored has carotenoids or pigmentations, we call it. And the two pigments that we care about the most are lutein and zeaxanthin. Those are two pigments that help to supplement and keep our retina very healthy. And your retina is in the inside of your eye, and that's where all the photoreceptors are and everything that signals and sends messages to your brain of what you can see. That's where you develop diseases like macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma. All of the common diseases are all retinal diseases. So to keep it healthy, we want to eat all the vegetables. And I want to debunk the carrot myth because I know that was probably coming from one of you. Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
I'm going to debunk like vegetables are great, but the myth about specifically about carrots is not correct. It is carrots have a pigment called beta carotene. When we eat that pigmentation, it actually converts to vitamin A in our body. So you don't need excess vitamin A in your body unless you have a deficiency. So there's really no point in overeating carrots. It's not doing anything. But I think initially the myth kind of came from it's a carotenoid, it's a type of pigmentation. But where we want the carotenoids from are those colored vegetables that are green leafy kind of colored vegetables, or even like red peppers, things that are colored. They have a lot of lutein and zeaxanthin. So those are the two carotenoids that I'm going to say you want to focus on. And then the omega-3s are great for dry eyes and decreasing inflammation, of course.
Hmm.
Can
The
you talk?
funny, I will say a funny thing about the carrots, I've also heard that link to eye health because some people believe that whatever organ a food looks like, it's good for. Like walnuts are good for the brain. Avocado is good for prostate. Like people compare
Ah,
it. And
interesting.
so I've heard carrots, if you slice it and you look at it and it's got the rings, people say, "Oh, it looks like an eyeball. It must be good for your eyes." Just a
I
funny
never
story. But
heard
like,
that. That's so cool.
yeah, there's a couple other foods. I'm blanking on them, but yeah, it's an interesting theory.
Interesting.
So, okay, so don't eat too many carrots. Actually, our dad had a patient once that was eating so many carrots, his skin started to turn orange. He was eating like pounds of carrots. I mean, insane amount.
Was this
Yeah, so that's
glucose?
probably a vitamin A change. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so don't do
I
that.
eat, I eat a lot of carrots, but it hasn't prevented my eyes from not changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So debunk the carrots. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Laura, you were gonna ask something.
Well, since you've talked about all these retinal diseases and you mentioned like some metabolic function diseases, so I'm assuming that supporting glucose and insulin function is major as well. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, just to take it back a little bit, that your eyes are the only place in the body where we can see blood vessels as doctors. There is no other area in your body where a doctor can just like look at you and see your blood vessels. But in a routine eye exam, that's what we're looking at, your blood vessels. So very important. And then the diabetic process, if you have diabetes and it's uncontrolled, then it affects your blood vessels and we can get leaky fluid, leaky blood, all sorts of things. So diabetic retinopathy, we have nephropathy, neuropathy, and retinopathy. Those are the top three side effects of uncontrolled diabetes or sugar. They all go in tandem, and retinopathy is a big thing. So we will see patients who have bleeding, loss, oxygen deprivation in their retina, and things like that. So really important, and we counsel those patients to have good glucose control, because otherwise, if there's too much bleeding, too much swelling, leaky fluids, blood vessels don't know what they're doing, then we are going to see loss of vision because it's affecting your retina.
Okay. So
Okay,
glucose
blood sugar.
control, carotenoids, anything else in the diet nutrition realm?
Omegas is another good one. I think your sunlight protection, your outdoor time, and I think for in general, I always say, your eye, mind, body connection. I always say socializing with people and just being outdoors more, talking to people, not being focused always up close is really important for us.
Okay. And I remember what I was going to ask before. You mentioned dry eyes, which a lot of women struggle with hormonal changes. What can you say about why that's happening? What are the root causes other than just basic hormonal changes? And what can we look at in terms of either supporting hormones, supporting nutrition, lifestyle?
Yeah. So, I mean, with the estrogen drop, we also get the drop in androgens, and together they cause dryness. Our glands, meibomian glands, that are supposed to produce the oily part of our tears, are not produced as much or as good quality as they should be. So we have a loss of good quality tears, and we end up getting a lot of watery tears. So if you can imagine putting on watery lotion versus like a sticky oily lotion that will stay on your body. So we get a lot of watery tears. So we have a lot of women, 40 plus generally, perimenopause, menopause, that will say, no, I don't have dry eyes. I have watery eyes. And I'll say, okay, that is dry eyes. So your eyes should never be, your eyes should never water unless you're crying. They should be, the tears should be on place on your eyes, coating them, lubricating them like your lotion would. So we see that change in tear production, and omega-3s really help to decrease inflammation, stimulate that good quality tear production. So we always recommend omega-3s for the eyes, eating good healthy fish oils. If you're someone that can get it from foods, of course, that's great. And staying off the screens and using non-preserved artificial tears, very important. So I always say, we take care of our bodies, our face. We put on face cream twice a day. We brush our women, I should say, men don't do as much of that.
Yeah.
We brush our teeth twice a day. We floss. But what do we do for our eyes? There's not one thing we do for our eyes, right?
No,
So,
no.
that's bad on us as eye doctors. That's something that we need to be promoting. So I always tell everybody 40 plus, have a bottle of non-preserved artificial tears next to your bedstand, and every morning and night, put one drop in. You're lubricating your eyes. That's a good thing. It's like cream, but for your eyes. It doesn't, and I'll have a lot of patients that will say to me, I don't want to be putting all this artificial stuff into my body. And I'm like, but you're not ingesting it. It's staying on the surface to the point where a lot of these tears are safe for pregnancy. So it's not going into your eyes or penetrating the surface. It's staying just like lotion. And you're using a natural one because it's non-preserved. So no preservatives. I don't want you to just go get any bottle, over the counter, but any unpreserved good tear without toxicity, because it's unpreserved, is great. Twice a day. And I think that will really help, especially a lot of women. And staying hydrated helps with good quality tears and, of course, your body in general.
What kind of preservatives are they putting in? Like I always think of like that commercial. Do you have dry eyes? Use, I don't remember what the product is. But do most of those have something toxic in it?
Yes. So they have preservatives. Preservatives, there's so many of them, but they can cause toxicity, especially with excess use. on your corneal surface. So just like think of it as using a cream that has a compound in it that is not fully natural, or, has a vehicle in it that is going to cause irritation on you. You're not going to keep using that cream daily. You're going to want to use a more natural cream that's free of, all the harmful substances. So for eye drops, the majority of the major concern is the preservatives that help keep its shelf life there. And when you remove that, you get more of the natural, just the tear compound of it. There's also other drops, and you might be referring to these. They're the clear, like reducing redness drops, or red eye gone, or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of those drops that claim to reduce redness. If the drop on the bottle says will reduce your redness, or can reduce your redness, or make your eyes clear, you stay away from that drop. So they have decongestants in them that help to, in layman's terms, squish your blood vessels so that they appear less red. So you will feel good, because they're less red, but using it a lot and over, like an elastic, if you constantly squish your blood vessels, will eventually lead to rebound long-term redness. So we don't like those. If you're doing a stage show or you're on a podcast and you want to just quickly clear your eyes, sure. But if you're going to use it repeatedly every day, you will get rebound redness. So if you want to use a lubricant, go towards a tear, not a redness relief drop. And also see your eye doctor, because if your eyes are red, you either have allergies, you have an infection, you have dryness, you have mild inflammation, you have something going on, and we got to get to the root cause of it.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, of course. We don't want to just like skip over the underlying cause here. That's funny. I think I bought Lumify once.
Yes. So that's one of the better ones. That is a great drop.
Better ones.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So Lumify is great. Again, you're helping to get rid of the redness, but it doesn't have rebound side effects. So that's great. You won't get, it's not working on the same mechanism as the over-the-counter decongestant. So Lumify is one of our favorites as an eye doctor if you're using it just, for, again, going out, stage shows, et cetera, et cetera. But if your eyes are constantly red, you're constantly use it, let's get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, I actually bought it. My cousin recommended it before my wedding. She was like, you got to get this stuff. I tried it once. I think I forgot about it on my wedding day, and I never used it again. I don't even have red eyes. I just was like, ooh, what'll make my eyes whiter for these pictures?
Should have used it on my wedding day. If it was around so 20 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sitting in a drawer somewhere, so it's not even, doesn't even matter. Okay, so dry eyes. Is there any advice in terms of like supporting hormones, or would you refer to other resources for that?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing when I talk about, menopause or perimenopause is sending you to a menopause specialist to balance your hormones. I don't think there's any foods in particular or eye things in particular besides, taking your breaks on devices, balancing your sugars. Like that's a huge thing because as you know, with women, we tend to be more diabetic post-menopause and have all those glucose shifts and all those things. So for me, the biggest thing is, glucose, talking about glucose and talking to my patients who have PCOS, because a lot of them, close to menopause or, post-menopause end up turning early diabetics or pre-diabetic. And a lot of those conversations are around sugar control.
Yeah. Helps so many things. So for those of us in the prevention camp, like I want to keep my good eyesight. I'm 38. Although I will say I have noticed like it is a little bit harder to see, like the highway signs really far down. I used to be able to see like miles away. Now it's changing a little bit, probably from being on my computer, but still on the prevention side. How often should we be getting like an eye exam and going to see an eye doctor? Is it kind of like going to the dentist? Like we should be going every year, or what do you think?
Absolutely. Every year. And
every year.
I'm not just saying that because I'm an eye doctor, but like we see a lot of us see our dentist every 6 months, right? And no offense to dentists, but I would rather lose a teeth than an eye. So, right? I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't, because if you have a disease that's starting, you want to catch it early. And with any part of our body, there's always holistic measures that can help us to slow the progression or monitor things more such that we don't lose vision. And there are people in their 40s where I'll see them 1 year and then I'll see them at a gap of 3 years. Say 3 years later, I see them and they have full glaucoma. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And some of them are
Wow.
young. And I'm like, I would have never thought. And these are patients where I saw 3 years ago, and I'm like, I'm almost mad at myself. Did I miss something? Like, what's going on? So, yes, there's not a lot of patients with it, but you don't want to be that patient with an early retinal tear, early retinal holes, which we see in a lot of patients. And early diabetic retinopathy. I had an emergency room doctor the other day, and he's an emerge room doctor, and he's fit, and he rides his bike to my office, so he's fit. And he comes in and I see him every year, and all of a sudden what this year I see that his prescription went up by a -1, so it increased a -1, which is not typical in his age group, and generally his trajectory was pretty good. And so I just, it's embarrassing to ask an emerge room doctor, like, have you had your sugars checked? But I was like, have you had your physical and what? And he's like, oh no, it's been ages. Like, hey, you're going to work today. Can you have one of the nurses just draw your blood, please? He did. His sugar was through the roof. And he called me same day. He was put on insulin.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
was like, that little -1 shift, which to me seemed, when your gut tells you that's not a normal shift for you. And so, I think he was in his late 30s. It just kind of, it doesn't matter what profession you're in or, what you do. Bottom line is you have to take care of yourself, your eyes, and knowing that a simple eye exam can detect so much more. I had a patient who was in her 40s. She had her family doctor checkup 3 days before my eye exam. And we're doing her retinal checkup where comprehensive eye exams include a dilation, checking all your blood vessels. And there's this tiny, tiny plaque. Like I almost had to hallucinate it in one of her blood vessels. So then I scanned it with a retinal photo and I'm like, oh my God, is it there? And it was there. And I sent her to the emerge because if that tiny plaque dislodges, it's going to the brain and she's going to have a stroke. And she was admitted right away. But she was someone, and I actually asked her, I said, have you had your physical? Yeah, I just had it 3 days ago where my reports came, my cholesterol's normal, everything's normal. She was put on blood thinners, cholesterol medication. So I feel that it's so important to
Wow.
have all these things in tandem because we're also into preventative medicine. So if we're into preventive medicine, then we need to check off everything to make sure that we have no early signs of everything. And sometimes our family doctors don't have time to check everything and go through all of this. So you might be able to find them at your dentist, your optometrist, your nutritionist. You might be able to get these little tidbits of information to help, prevent a stroke.
Oh my God,
Wow.
the story. All
That's
right,
pretty
everyone's getting
scary.
an eye appointment.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. We need to hear that. I know to be honest, I have not been to the eye doctor since I moved to Vegas 7 years ago. I had a great eye doctor in Maryland. I went every year. She practiced right underneath my office, so it was so easy. I would just go down there every year. But I haven't been in 7 years, so I need to find someone in Vegas.
You do. Yes. I'll
Yeah.
be in Vegas and for a conference in a couple of weeks. So maybe I'll do your eye checkup. No,
There you
no
go.
office there.
Instagram Live. Here we
I
go.
know. Retweet
Dilation.
this.
Yeah, definitely need to do that. Question about glasses. I had heard a long time ago that once you get glasses, your eyes become reliant on them and your eyes will get weaker and then you need stronger glasses and so on. Is that true?
No, so that is a
Okay.
very common myth. We see that a
Okay.
lot out of Europeans actually. It was very common back there, and a lot of our European patients strongly believe that. So it's not that your eyes cannot get reliant on something. You like when you wear
Okay.
glasses, it's just acting as a focusing device. That's all it's doing. It's focusing the light to hit your retina. That's all it's doing. It's a piece of plastic that's just focusing the light. What you're getting reliant on is clear vision. Your brain likes that. And so you want it. So then you keep wearing the glasses. And that's kind of where that myth came in, that if I wear my glasses, I'm going to get reliant on them and dependent on them. It's not that you're getting dependent on them. Your brain wants it. And so let it relax. Let it. And that kind of leads me to 50% of your brain is involved in vision processing. And that's crazy because people think of your brain as your brain. Nobody realizes that 50% of your brain is processing vision. That's a lot. So if that 50% wants to relax, I say let it,
Right. So
your brain is working,
overtime if your vision is off, right? So you're burning more brain energy. Okay.
And we actually see people get worse. So there are proven studies that especially with nearsightedness, your prescription gets worse if you're undercorrected. So there's a lot of people overseas, especially in Asia, where they'll want to be undercorrected. It was a big thing back then, years ago, where people would come and say, don't give me -4, give me a -3, because I want my eyes to still work. And studies have shown undercorrection is a stimulus to progression because your brain, your eye and your brain are working on overdrive and focusing. So you want to wear your correct prescription. I mean, if it's a very mild prescription, wear it when your eye doctor tells you to wear it. I'm not saying wear it all the time, but don't not wear it thinking you'll get worse. You can't get worse. You can stay stable, but your brain is going to work harder if you're not.
Okay. That's very helpful.
And what about farsightedness?
Same thing. So your brain still works harder. There's not a lot of studies on undercorrection. We tend to, so with some, farsightedness is tricky. We tend to undercorrect it a little bit, especially in children, to help their muscles actually focus a little bit and work a little bit. But with farsightedness, think of it as more your eye muscles are relaxing. So if a lot of farsighted patients are, struggling with computer time or near work time. So I always say wear your glasses during that time to let your muscles relax. Because if you think about it and you're not wearing those glasses, what's happening? You're basically running on that treadmill instead of walking on that treadmill. Right? So it's important that you take that break, and the break is wearing your glasses where your muscles can finally relax. So if you're going to be on your computer for 3 hours, wear them. If you're going to be on for 5 minutes and you can see your emails, read them for 5 minutes, sure, but let your muscles relax. Okay. So for farsighted patients, it's more about relaxing versus seeing. For nearsighted patients, they need it to see, and they tend to like it. Their brain likes it. And so that's called dependency.
Got it.
Okay. Interesting.
So I'm curious to ask you an even more personal question. So when I went to the eye doctor, it was actually funny timing because I scheduled an appointment. My eyes were fine. I just did it because I was like, I need to probably do this. And a week before is when I started noticing my vision change. I went to the eye doctor and they said, you have astigmatism and you're farsighted. I was like, not surprised about the latter. But the astigmatism, I was definitely surprised about. So they made glasses for me and I took them back. I was like, these are wrong. The prescription's wrong. And they checked them. They're like, no, these are right. You'll get used to it. I guess I could share more details, but any thoughts on why that would just be so jarring for me, that new prescription?
Yeah. So astigmatism is the shape of your eye. So it means, think of it as you're not the same prescription all the way around your eyes, but they're an axis or an area where you're asymmetrical. God forbid we're asymmetrical. And most of us have some degree of asymmetry. Yeah. But if you're going and you're correcting yourself with glasses and you're going from 0.25 asymmetry or astigmatism to all of a sudden a 1 diopter asymmetry or astigmatism, that can be hard for your brain to adjust to, because all this time, your eyes and your brain have been squinting that out. And we can focus out astigmatism pretty good. And now you're giving yourself these glasses and telling your brain and your eyes, relax, calm down. And with astigmatism, it's hard. It's the hardest. So yes, I tend to have a lot of astigmatism patients where when we change things, they tend not to adapt as quickly. And so usually we'll do exactly what your doctor said, which is go try to get that brain to relax in your eyes over the next couple of weeks. If it doesn't work, we will reduce the amount of change.
Okay. So I never got them changed. I tried for a good 6 weeks and I was like nauseous. Everything on the computer was slanted. I was like, I can't work this way. And I gave it like a really good shot. And eventually I
I would
stopped.
just get it changed. Yeah. So the biggest no-no is just giving up on your glasses. I would go back because you still want the correction in general of some sort. It's that you can adapt to it. Like we're human. I had the same thing happen to me and I'm an eye doctor. Doesn't mean anything. It means we just have to reduce our prescription a little bit because we need it in baby steps. We cannot take it all of a sudden. And the problem is we don't know who can take it. So we give everybody their full prescription and wait for the ones who will come back.
Okay. Yeah. So
All
my
right.
next step was I'm just going to get readers because I feel great in readers and I
Yeah,
will
no.
get back to them.
We're the over-the-counter ones. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those. So we want it to be, I mean, not
Oh,
for long-term use. Yes, the
tell
over-the-counter
us
ones,
more.
not centered to you, not centered to your different eyes. I like to call them magnifiers because they're literally like magnifiers. They just magnify things. But what you want is corrective lenses. We call them refractive lenses that actually change the path of light to hit your retina versus something that just makes things bigger, but you still have to clear it up. It's just easier to clear a bigger image. So they're magnifiers. I always compare them to when my kids used to go to the dollar store and get those ladybug magnifiers when they were young, like that. It's basically that in your lenses. So it's not centered to your pupil distance. So you can get all these reflections, aberrations, prismatic effects. So I like throwing them in your purse for I'm at the grocery store, just want to quickly magnify something. But if you're going to sit on a computer for an hour, no, get your real refractive lenses, but just get it reduced, whatever you need to do so that you can see, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the
Okay.
advice.
Now you know.
I should put a
Now you
medical
know.
disclaimer there. I am not your eye doctor. No joking.
I know that's very general and put you on the spot, but I felt like I was kind of left hanging. The eye doctor was just like, "Get used to it. There's no other choice." I was like, "Oh, but
Yeah, no, I encourage you
Yeah.
to go back. I mean, I have patients come back and I always tell them, like, I want you to come back. Like, otherwise, my day is so easy. Like, that's our goal. We need you guys to see. That is why we're eye doctors. And if you can't see and you can't adapt, then that's our job to fix it.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. I love that."
What about LASIK? I don't really know much about it, but I've had some friends that have done it. Are you a fan of that?
I am a fan. I've had LASIK done and I think it was
Okay.
2009, so many years ago. I'm a fan of it because I was, successful, all things great. I think what's important, like any surgery, is first of all understanding that it is a procedure. I don't like to call it a surgery or that it's like super invasive because you're not entering the eye. You're staying right on the cornea, which is the front surface of their eye, and you're peeling back the very superficial layer of it and then lasering it, and then you're putting back that. So you're not actually penetrating or going into the eye. So I like to call it a procedure, not a surgery. And I think what's important is technology and knowing you're a candidate because a lot of times, we see these horror stories or hear about these horror stories, and they are people that should have been candidates at the beginning. And that's
Oh.
unfortunate. So when I look at a center, I actually inquire about the turn down rate. And, I encourage your listeners, if they're going for LASIK, ask the center, what is your turn down rate? Turn down rate means they are turning people away, which is turning business away. And that's important. You want people to be turned away because not everybody is a candidate. So look at the turn down rate, compare your turn down rates, not how many surgeries have you done. Who cares about that? We care about how many have you turned away because that means you're screening people effectively. And that is the most important thing. And then comparing technology, not price. We want to make sure it's fully customized to the most, highest standard of care and that you are a good candidate in terms of dryness and night vision issues. So there are some people that are more prone to post-operative dryness, more severe than what they started with, and night vision issues more severe than what they started with. And a lot of times we can tell ahead of time who those candidates are. And it's important that you're counseled about those two things that, hey, listen, you have a bit of dryness now. We see based on your corneal nerves and this and that you will probably have more dryness. Are you okay with that? So go in knowing what risks there are pertaining to you ahead of time. Go in making that informed decision.
Okay. That's very helpful. Yeah.
Uh,
You said poor night vision. Is that like a whole nother issue that people just struggle at nighttime?
Yeah, so based on the laser pattern, a lot of times, so at nighttime, your pupil opens up so that you can see better versus closing
Right.
when you're in light. So your pupil opens up. So that lasering pattern is more evident and can make things a bit more blurry, cause more halos, more glare. So based on the zone size, we call it, and your pupil size, we want to make sure the zone size matches your maximum pupil size at night. So most testing centers will have a machine that they're using preoperatively to check what your night vision pupil is like. What size is that? And if it's too large, they should be telling you that, hey, your pupil size is larger than our laser surgery pattern. You might be at risk for more reflections or night vision issues while driving. So go in informed knowing that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Wow.
And then outside of LASIK, just night vision in general. So for myself, nighttime is very hard. I used to read books at night and I'm like,
Me too.
Yeah.
that's
Must
past
be our
time.
age.
What can you explain what's happening there with the pupil and with light like, being excessive?
Yeah. So generally, as we get older, anyways, our pupils tend to get smaller. So the pupils are getting smaller. So it doesn't matter, even if we're in the dark, it doesn't enlarge as much. So we don't allow as much light in. So most people are uncomfortable driving at night in general as we get older. And, if you look at your own pupils in the mirror, then you look at grandparents' pupils in the mirror, you will see they're significantly smaller. So it's a very common night vision issue we see post 50, usually, even 40. I mean, we see a lot of people with night vision driving issues. And I should mention what to do about it. So, you can wear, if you don't wear prescription glasses for driving at night, you can wear non-prescription glasses, but with a good anti-reflective coating that will help to ward off reflections. And then there's a drop that you have to talk to your eye doctor if you're a candidate to use. It's Alpha-Gan, and it helps to change the pupil size a little bit to help more light come in. So, I mean, it's still a prescribed drop. It was initially made for glaucoma treatment. So I'm not always a fan of all these non-holistic measures, but if, night vision and you're a driver at night and you need to do it professionally, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Who knows how many people are driving at night and not seeing well? That's kind of scary.
Yeah. Just driving in general and maybe it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
I had an 80-year-old lady the other day, and she came in to see me for a first time eye exam. And she came in with her in Ontario here. We have to renew our driver's license at 80. So she came in for her
Oh, wow.
80-year-old drive. And I think every state also, you guys have like at some age a renewal. They have to as you get older. So she had the standard renewal. And in the renewal, it's checking your vision, making sure you can see, which she could. And it's checking your visual field because you want to make sure that you can see on all areas while your blind spot and whatnot. And we ran her visual field, and she's driving. She drove into the office. We ran her visual field. It was 10 degrees of vision, which is basically, think of that as the size of your computer screen.
Oh no.
And in that moment, my stomach sank. And all I could think about was if that was my child riding a bike and she was backing out from her driveway, there is no way she could see anybody. And so, I wanted to say that to encourage people, especially in our age, a lot of us, our parents are getting to their 70s, 80s. Please make sure they can drive. Please make sure they pass that. Please make sure they do take these tests earlier rather than later, because you don't want them missing children. You don't want them missing their blind spot driving. And a lot of them should not be driving in general. And who knows how many years she's had 10 degrees of vision the last 10 years and how many accidents she could have potentially had. So it's scary.
Yeah.
That
And
is
I think I
scary.
heard you have the right to revoke a license. Is that
Oh,
true?
yes, I revoked her license. Absolutely. That moment. We called the family members and said she cannot drive home. And if she did, because I had submitted it to the ministry right away that moment, then she would be, held in some form of, there would be some sort of penalty.
Oh wow. Interesting. I wonder if that's the same in the States, do you know?
I don't know, but I think driving standards all over are pretty similar in the sense that there is a time when the elderly need to do a retest. I don't know what age it would be, and it could vary by state, but definitely, I mean, they have to because there's cognitive decline there as well, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
never really thought about that.
I want to ask you about that. The I guess the correlations between declining eye health and cognitive decline. Are they always
Yes.
happening
Yes.
simultaneously?
Yeah, so we will see. I think the stat out there right now is over 50% of patients with cognitive decline have some form of vision loss, and or hearing loss is also included in that. But that's a pretty
Right.
strong stat. So most of patients that I do see with cognitive decline have some form of vision loss. And that lady, by the way, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I found that out later. But most of them have some form of cognitive loss. And so there's a vision loss. And, you know, when we look at studies and you really try to investigate what is happening, when you have not been corrected or you have some form of vision changes loss, and you know that your brain, 50% of it is working on vision, your brain has to work harder. So your brain is getting tired. You're going to have cognitive decline. That's the bottom
Yeah.
line.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's not rocket science. It makes sense. And that's why I always tell patients to wear their glasses, right? Especially the higher prescription patients. You know, sometimes I'll see people with -3s not walking around with glasses. And I'm like, no. Do you know how much work your brain has to do? Your brain has to work so much harder. Get contacts if you don't like the look of glasses, but you are making your brain work so much harder. We will see earlier cognitive decline for sure. And I think with the next generation, it's just going to get worse with more vision issues. We'll see more hearing issues. We will see more cognitive decline.
Hmm. Yeah, I have heard that a lot about hearing loss. Like, if you have trouble hearing, you need to fix that now to prevent cognitive decline. But I hadn't really thought about the vision. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
And I think the
Yeah.
hearing areas of the brain, I think it's about 10 to 15% of the areas of the brain that focus on hearing. So if you think about it, vision takes up so much more. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are not having their eyes checked when they can. And, you know, if you are showing signs of early glaucoma, we want to slow that down with medication, drops, whatever we can do. You don't want to get to that point where you can't see as well. And then we have cognitive decline. And you know, and I said that to this lady's kids who I ended up calling in to drive her home. You know, I said, they're like, we don't understand how she developed, you know, Alzheimer's and this and that. And I'm like, listen, I think this is all correlated. I think she had lost vision due to a disease, which we had to, you know, we're still investigating what is going on. And so she can only see this much in her life. She lost her social connections. She is probably sitting at home most of the time. She is not hearing you when she doesn't see you on the side. You know, it's all connected. And so she's developing Alzheimer's. So I think vision was the precursor to all of this. And she had been seeing an eye doctor every year, which is even scarier, but no one checked her visual field. And it wasn't until she brought that form into me. And, you know, and I think about if I was her previous eye doctor and she had never brought a driving form in to me, would I have tested her visual field? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I would have because she seemed so with it, like in the sense of reading the letters and that she knew what she was doing. Like I didn't really think about it. And it was an easy miss. And I just want people to know that there is an aspect of visual field or spatial awareness, and knowing that and helping you move through space is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh. I've learned so much. We're at the end of our time, but I have to ask one more quick question. Is that okay, Renee?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you see any correlations with like neurotoxins, things like mold or heavy metals in the brain. Like if it's all about the brain as the processor and the eye as the vessel, is that something that patients bring up or that you've correlated with research at all?
Not so much. I haven't read too much into it. I don't know if there's many eye studies related to that, but I'm sure, you know, if the brain is not functioning to its ability with those toxins, then we will see vision decline later on because it's not going to be able to process vision optimally. Kind of like if we see cognitive decline first and then vision loss, it's all kind of correlated, but I don't know if I know of any studies in particular that have correlated it, but that's a good one.
I'm just
That's
curious,
interesting to think.
clients that have mold, like we often point them to do like a visual contrast test online, and we can spot there's a higher correlation of it's possible that you've been exposed to mold if you're not seeing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah. And I know that's a can of worms. Maybe we can have you back and talk about that. Look at that a little bit more.
After I research that. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to let us
Answer
know.
my question. Like if it's happening in the brain, it's going to happen in the eyes at some point.
I mean, it makes sense if you're saying they're testing visual contrast, and they're, that might be the early indicator. But just like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, like all those things, a lot of times we catch that with an eye test because they lose contrast, they lose the tracking ability, they lose, they get light sensitive. There's so many visual signs, and it's not that, we know, okay, you have Parkinson's, but we know there's something off in the brain because you're not tracking properly. You're not, picking out things in space. We call it the crowding effect. You can't see contrast well. So, it's probably similar to all the cognitive decline that we see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Gotta protect the brain. Wow. I've learned so much.
Same. Yeah. I'm going to go to the eye doctor
right now. Trying to get it this afternoon.
I'll check that you did.
Prevention. Yeah. Actually, any advice on like looking for a new eye doctor? Like, is there like something we should be asking or
Yeah, I'm going to say the biggest thing that I always, want people to advocate for is comprehensive eye exams. And in the industry, that's pretty standard that we say the word comprehensive. So comprehensive means not only a vision check, but a full eye health check, which can include a retinal dilation, which is checking all your blood vessels and the health. So it's kind of two parts. One is vision and one is eye health. So we call that a comprehensive eye exam. I always tell people not to go somewhere where they're just checking your prescription and your vision. That is not the only thing that we need to see. There's so much more than that.
Okay, great. I'll look into that. All right. This is actually the final question. If you could recommend one piece of health advice for our audience to start doing today, it can be connected to your eyes or full body, anything. What would you say they should do right away?
Turn off their screens. No, the 20-20-20 rule. I can't tell you, it goes a long way. And a lot of us preach that. And again, it's every 20 minutes while you're looking at something up close. Doesn't have to be a device, something up close for 20 seconds. Look far away, 20 feet away. So if you can position your desk, like mine's near a window where, I mean, I don't always remember, but I'll just look out. That's looking far away. Just look far away. Give yourself those eye breaks because we know that screens are related to all sorts of other declines, social, all of that, but it is really affecting our eyes and we are addicted to it. And that's a big issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It actually feels really good to take that break. I keep looking out the window and it feels good. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful.
So simple. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you tell our audience where to find more of you, please?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Meenal Agarwal. And you can also listen to me on any podcast platform. My podcast is called Uncover Your Eyes, The Truth About Health and Wellness. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wonderful. All right.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you for your time.
Yes. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. We will see you next time.